Okay, topics in protection. Then we kind of can go into like the next one that kind of goes along with it is ancestors as so
Mhm.
and the kind of roles that and what do you how do you feel about ancestors like as protective forces or as like how do you even
So I don't really do ancestral work. Um, I don't I don't feel a connection with that really. And I don't there's so many views on it, right? A lot of people say like, oh well, like maybe a lot of white people don't feel connected to their ancestors because a lot of the ancestors like pillaged and like sent were like hanging the witches and all of this stuff. I don't know though. I mean, you could go back further than that. I don't, but I do have connections to the like witch ancestors. So not like blood lineage ancestors, but like the witches of the past. I would consider them ancestors, just not blood ancestors. Um, but yeah, I don't really do anything like really at all with lineage ancestors.
okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
I think that there's a lot to be said. I think that that's could be like a really powerful path. But it's just, I don't know, not for me, and not at this time, I guess.
Yeah. So I come from a tradition that's really into
Mm,
genealogy and
yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I find it interesting, but
Yeah.
I don't do like a lot of like protection work with ancestors.
Mm,
When I visit or when I'm like invited to be a part of an ofrenda, like I definitely put out ancestors like important. And interestingly enough, well, I shouldn't even say that because my grandma has a lot of interesting ancestors, like from her like French and Italian heritage. Like, and
mm,
Italian is way back because it doesn't like she's connected, like because okay, so if many of you know or do not know, I grew up Mormon, and so they do genealogy, and so my grandmother like can easily go back to the Mayflower, even. She had like relatives come over on the Mayflower. And some of the ancestors that she can directly tie into, like all their genealogy has been done like back like to like before like 12 like like 12 I can see the ancestors and some of these people that she can tie my ancestors to are like crazy famous. Like it's just insane.
mm,
Like in her direct lineage, like I just kept going back and back and back and clicking back. And we're not even talking about like cousins. We're talking about like direct father, son, father, son, father, son. Like
mm.
or mother, kid, like parents and children. So it's really interesting. So I find it interesting but I haven't really I maybe I should. Maybe it's something I should look into. But anyway, they can be powerful protection forces in some cultures. So as a shielding force. So many traditions like in many traditions the dead stand like at the threshold between the living and the unseen, okay? They guard the edges because they are in that edge, that liminal space. So they guard like these liminal spaces and these like boundaries and these crossroads, like at home, land, and body. They can form like a shield and a perimeter around descendants spiritually and socially. So, where do you see this? The West African traditions, like, and the African diaspora, ancestors guard household and lineage. They police spiritual boundaries and intervene if harm approaches. Also in ancient Rome, we just talked about that. The Manes and the Lares familiares protect the family and its property. They are like spiritual sentinels, and they can be ancestral for sure. And then China and East Asia, ancestral tablets like the one you see right there, they like anchor protective presences. So the ancestors keep out wandering spirits for them. So ancestors as moral and social protectors. So protection isn't just like this metaphysical thing that we're talking about. So like ancestors and the idea of your ancestors, like they can defend the well-being, the reputation, the good fortune of the family line. Okay, like people hearken back to ancestors. Like I'm gonna go look at that like genealogy again, and I'm gonna come like with like I have so many people that I'm tied to. It's almost shocking. It's like embarrassing to say. Like I'm like when I see those people like the next in line, like my jaw drops. So my reputation should be founded on that. Like Mary
Mm.
Magdalene is in my line of like descent.
Nice.
So so people like in Japan, Buddhist and Shinto syncretism. So ancestors are protecting harmony and social order within a household. In Korea, Jisa rights maintain the reciprocal relationship. So ancestors shelter the family from misfortune when they're honored. So a lot of times you see this in Asian traditions, and you see this also like for example, like having a son, and why that's so important to have a son is because they need to protect this family lineage and honor the ancestors.
Mm.
And so you see in like while it may be well, in fact, I read this whole book and when I was in my time in schooling, when I was going to school for anthropology, is that somebody wrote this book about how like how that one child rule in China, how it worked, but there was unintended consequences. And the
Mm.
unintended consequences was that there was this whole like underground of women who weren't counted in their society and who were like non-people in their society because you were supposed like you could only have one kid. So then if it wasn't a boy, they would hide that girl, like or kill it, God
Best
forbid.
case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like or they just and like there was like an underground child, and then they would have to even import women like
Mm.
for like marriage because there was not enough like legitimate women in their society. So it had like this unintended consequence. But the whole reason behind that was because it wasn't because people like, although men are prized in our culture much more than women and much more than anybody wants to think or attest to, but the main reason that was put out is because they had to have a boy to maintain these ancestor rights and to
Mm.
like honor the ancestors. So also though in Samoan culture, and I can't even begin to pronounce this, Aitu, Aiga, ancestral,
Mm.
which are ancestral spirits. They protect family members and warn of danger. So ancestors can protect through continuity and maintaining right relationships and harmonizing the living. So it's not just like something metaphysical, like ancestor worship is about what happens right now and protecting social boundaries and protecting your family because of who your ancestors were and honor and the very act of honoring your ancestors. So, ancestors can be, in some cultures, they're looked at as advisors or people that show the way. Okay, so they can guide descendants and through dreams, intuition, symbolic messages, inner knowing, like some voice inside your gut or your bones or whatever. So, some people that look at it, ancestors in this way is in like it varies by nation, but many indigenous North American traditions look at their ancestors in this way, that ancestors transmit teaching and can warn of danger and guide behavior. Celtic traditions. So the dead remain close, especially at these liminal times, these bonfire times, right? These sabbats, these tween times of the equinoxes and the solstices. And they advise and they bless. And also, again, in the African diaspora traditions, like hoodoo, things like that, ancestors offer direct clarity and protection in the daily life. So this type of protection is protection through wisdom. Don't go there. Do this instead. This path is yours. So then also ancestors can act as warriors or guardians. So they can be a protective force with agency of their own, like stopping danger before it reaches the living. They can actively combat harmful influence. And like in this group, people that believe that are like the Viking and Norse traditions, like the Disir or their female ancestors that protect family lines and warriors. And we have like a friend who like definitely like is all about that. So Mesoamerican traditions, ancestors guard fields, homes, children, cultivated land itself. And Slavic folklore, ancestral spirits defend the hearth and may even confront hostile beings. We talked about some of these in our last conversation. So they can also be intercessors. So do you know what an intercessor is?
Mm.
An intercessor is a go-between. So
Uh,
it's like, so it's a go-between so that your ancestors can be, and the saints, like
mm,
nobody like worships saints. Like Catholics don't worship saints. They pray to saints to act as intercessors between them and God.
mm,
So to carry prayers, grief, requests, and needs to like the spiritual realm, though. So some people believe like that your ancestors will do that as well.
mm,
And they can protect you through this spiritual sort of diplomacy, right? They hold influence in the afterworld or in unseen liminal spaces. So in Mexican and Central American traditions, ancestors receive offering and intercede for descendants. Like we just talked about, Catholic and not even folk practice. Maybe in Catholic folk traditions, but ancestors can also be part of this intercessory prayer thing that happens. And in China, ancestors mediate between the household and heaven. So finally, this ancestor discussion is about protectors of the land. So ancestors can be protectors of the land that you live on, your land, their land. So they protect through place. So the land remembers you and shelters you. And like the Maori tradition, the Waka Papa connects people to ancestors in the land. So they have responsibilities to the land and their ancestors protect specific places. Also in Andean traditions, I think it's the Inca. Yes, the Inca were from the
mm.
Andes. So
Nice.
correct I am. So ancestors are guardians of mountains, fields, and households. And also in Baltic folk traditions, field and forest contain ancestral presence as protectors. So these are all like ways that ancestors can act as protective forces for people if you are into it. And this has renewed my interest in logging into my mother's like familysearch.net or whatever it is that like has like incredible genealogical records of my family line. And of course my father so my mom like converted to Judaism before I was born. So she went through this extensive long process. So that makes me a Jew, but my father's family, his ancestors almost all but like one little line perished in the Holocaust.
Mm,
So that it's kind of hard to like get past that, jump past that. but in my own research, it's very interesting because I felt, and this is like one of the few times that I felt really connected to my ancestors is when I went on, as like a member of the, um, as a Jew myself, I was able to get on this Jewish Gen and have a membership in Jewish Gen. And I found the actual records of where like my dad's family lived in the ghettos
Mm.
in like in the I think it was what's now Belarus, but in the ghettos in Poland and Belarus and Russia. So it's
Mm.
very, I felt very connected when I saw that name and that the actual location, because of course the Nazis were incredible record keepers. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that is
Nice.
that.